My name is Catherine Cardella, and I represent here Association of Leaders for Democracy. Association is newly created, and members of association are women, and they are all trained by special programs launched by the National Democratic Institute. We are at the beginning of our future, so today we have the chance to ask you to share with your experience, and we hope to hear from you the recommendations. You were the first female chair of the Legal Service Corporation, and now you are the woman who has the biggest experience of high achievements. Please be so kind to give us one concrete case, one incident when you took the decision, when you acted in the manner what has brought you and your business the success, recognition, and authority in the society. Please, thank you.
Well, thank you. You know, it is always difficult to look back on now more than 40 years of political and NGO activity. But I think early on, when I was about your age, I decided that I wanted to do everything I could to provide a voice for the voiceless. And in my personal work, working on behalf of children, especially neglected, abused, marginalized, poor children, was my closest feeling. It was what I was very motivated to do. So I worked for an organization called the Children's Defense Fund. I helped to start an organization in the state of Arkansas, where my husband was governor, called the Arkansas Advocates for Children and Families. And we took on the government. We even took on the government of my husband because we didn't think that children in need were getting the services that they deserved to have. So we would publish statistics about how children were not being well taken care of, and we would work on behalf of legislation. And as you also point out, I was the chair of our National Legal Services Corporation, and in that capacity, we provided lawyers for poor people who often sued the government. So we were getting money from the government that we used to hire lawyers to sue the government because the government was not protecting the rights of people. Now, that is the kind of way America works. Now, if you think that government was happy that we were suing them, you are wrong. If you think powerful interests like big farming cooperatives who were misusing migrant labor that we sued, or big landlords who were denying people decent living standards were happy that we sued, you'd be wrong. So when you take on the government or you take on big interests, no matter whether you're in Georgia or the United States, you are going to produce a reaction. But I believe it is in the best interests of our government and our economy to hold them accountable. And that, to me, is really at the core of the whole democratic enterprise. So I would often make decisions as a legal aid lawyer, as the chair of the Legal Services Corporation. I taught law school, and I organized young people who represented poor people, who also represented prisoners. To go back to your point, because no matter how terrible a crime they committed, it's a reflection on your society if they are not treated with some level of decency and dignity. So much of what I did was aimed at helping people get access to the rights that they were supposed to have in our society and our democracy. And then when I was on the other side of the line, during my husband's presidency, I worked hard on several issues, obviously health care, to change the rules to help people get access to health care, and we finally got that done after 17 years this past year under President Obama. And I also worked to change the welfare system and the adoption system and the foster care system. And in every instance, you do cause controversy when you take on change. That's kind of natural. But if you believe in what you're doing, and if you do it in a way that respects your system and use the tools of your system, I think it can work over the long run. I was just in Armenia, and I was talking to some of the civil activists there who are trying to shine a spotlight on government corruption. And by the way, Georgia gets very good marks for what your government has done to try to prevent corruption. Now, doesn't mean there's no corruption. There's corruption in my government, and we have laws and we have regulators, but you've got to get it to as low a level as possible. And in Armenia, they're fighting that battle. And some of the activists said to me that they are using their courts to sue government officials who they know are corrupt. And I said, oh, you mean you have independent judges? They go, no, but even those judges can't ignore the evidence. And we get good lawyers who are willing to do it. So I think that many people in young democracies think, well, at some point we should not have to work this hard. But if you go back and look at my country, we had to work very hard. When our Constitution was established, only white men who owned property were allowed to vote. So that meant if you were a poor white man, or if you were a slave, or if you were a woman, you were a non-citizen. So we had to fight a civil war to free the slaves. We had to pass a constitutional amendment to give women the right to vote. We had to have a civil rights movement to overcome the legacy of prejudice and discrimination and so much else. So, you know, just make up your mind, focus on what you really care about, and then equip yourself and educate yourself to be as effective as you can, and get allies where you can find them.